Right, so this upcoming week sees the start of yet another 3 tournaments on the ATP Tour. We've got one in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, which is the biggest tournament of the week. We've got one in Doha, in Qatar, and one in Los Cabos, in Mexico. Now, given the fact that Doha is the tournament that kicks off first, it will be the first of the videos that I will make this week. Now, there will be videos covering both my predictions for the Rio de Janeiro Open and the Los Cabos Open, but in this video, I will take a look at my predictions for the Doha Open. Of course, last year's rendition of the tournament in Doha saw Daniil Medvedev beat Andy Murray in the final. Daniil Medvedev will not be back to try to defend his title, but we still have some great players coming to play this tournament, with Andrei Rublev being the #1 seed and also players like Khachanov being in there. But let's just get straight into the prediction. So the way this video is going to be structured is we're going to look at one side of the draw, follow that all the way to the final, then look at the other side of the draw, follow that all the way to the final, and in the end I will give you my prediction for who will win the tournament in Doha. But let's just start with the left side of the draw, where first of all we've got Rublev getting a bye in the first round. Rublev will then face either Alexander Shevchenko or Richard Gasquet. Now, Gasquet has had a very tough start to the year. I think he's getting on. He's not really got all that much left in him, whereas Shevchenko is young and vibrant, and he just had his best win ever as he beat Holger Rune in Rotterdam. Now, I don't think he was the best player in that match against Rune. He just took his chances when they arose, whereas Rune didn't. But I do think he hit with a lot of intent, and he has a lot of firepower, and I do think that he will have what it takes to beat Gasquet in straight sets. The next matchup is a qualifier up against the defending runner-up in Andy Murray. Now, Andy Murray usually gets very tough draws, so finally for him, he gets a relatively good draw. The qualifying isn't done yet, so I don't know who he'll face. He could, of course, still get shafted, but as of right now, he's facing a qualifier, and I do think he will win in straight sets. We have then got Jakub Mensik up against Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. Now, Jakub Mensik went out in the second round in the Australian Open, where he lost in 5 sets to Hubert Hurkacz, but he did play very, very well in Australia. And as I mentioned last week, Davidovich Fokina can lose to pretty much anyone. He can also beat a lot of great players, but he usually falls out of tournaments like this to someone where you might not have expected it, given the fact that he can play well against the good players. I do think that Jakub Mensik will win this, and I think he'll do so in 3 sets. We then have Ugo Humbert getting a bye in the first round, and he will face either Pavel Kotov or Lorenzo Sonego in the second round. Now, it's been a bit of a while since I've watched Kotov play, but of course he can play well. I just think that Lorenzo Sonego is the better player. I think he was unfortunate to go out. I mean, Grigor Dimitrov was better than him in Rotterdam, but he was unfortunate to face Grigor on a day where Grigor's serve was absolutely mind-blowing. I can't recall a match other than this one where a player has gone through the entirety of the match and not lost a single point on his first serve. I think Dimitrov won, I think it was 39 out of 39. I know it was 100% of his first serve points, which is just insane. I do think Sonego is just slightly better than Kotov, and I think he will win in 3 sets to face Humbert in the second round. We then have Gael Monfils up against Botic van de Zandschulp. 2 players that went out to Jannik Sinner in Rotterdam. They will face off in the first round in Doha. And I think based on those matches against Sinner, Monfils obviously gave Sinner a lot more trouble. Botic van de Zandschulp, he just looked like he didn't believe he would do much damage to Sinner. And he ended up not doing any, really. I think Monfils was able to expose Sinner a bit more and hit it into Sinner's forehand, where he was able to put pressure on Sinner and thereby draw a lot of mistakes from Sinner. And I just think he played the better tennis, and I think he'll do so in this match as well. I do think Van de Zandschulp will have a bit more confidence in this match, as he's not facing Jannik Sinner, but I do think Monfils is the better player. I can see it ending in 2 sets, but I do think it'll go to a third, and I think Monfils will win it 2-1. And he will then face either Xishen Zhang or Lorenzo Musetti. Now, this is a match where I can see Musetti get upset. I can see him lose it. Um, but I also think he actually played fairly well against Talon Griekspoor in Rotterdam. He did go out, but if I remember correctly, I think he had a couple of match points, and it was a great match. And Talon Griekspoor just stepped up when he needed to. I can see Shang winning it, but my prediction is Musetti to win in three. Moving on to the round of 16 matches on the left side of the draw. The first one is Andrei Rublev against Alexander Shevchenko. And as said, Shevchenko, I don't think he was the better player against Rune. He just managed to, when he needed to, take his chances. And he hit with a lot of power and tried to really take time away from Rune. And if Shevchenko can manage to do the same to Rublev and get Rublev to not get into the rhythm, which I do think Shevchenko will manage at points during the match, I think he can take this to 3 sets. I still think Rublev will win, and I think for most of this match, Rublev will be able to be dominant and take control and dictate the match with that forehand. So I do think Rublev will win, and I think he'll do so in 3 sets. We have then got Andy Murray up against Jakub Mensik. Now, Murray, he's been playing well enough this year, but he's just not really been able to close out matches. He's not been able to do that final push and actually win. So when you look at his form guide, he looks like he's had a terrible start to the year. And results-wise, he probably has. But I don't feel like the results are actually showcasing how well he's played during the matches. I do think that he will win that first match against the qualifier, but I do think it will be the same story in this match against Jakub Mensik. I think Murray will play fine during the match, but I think Jakub Mensik will have the overall control of the match, and I think he will win in 3 sets. We then have Hugo Humbert up against Lorenzo Sonego. Now, Humbert obviously won in Marseille and then was dumped out in the first round in Rotterdam to Emil Ruusuvuori. I think what's most important for Humbert right now is to get a bit of consistency into his game. Like, he can win one title and then lose the first match the week after. I think now he's had basically a full week to recover, and I think that I think he'll get back to that level he showcased in Marseille, and I do think he will at the very least beat Lorenzo Sonego. The last match on the left side of the draw in the round of 16 is Gael Monfils up against Lorenzo Musetti. Now, as mentioned, Musetti actually played fairly well against Talon Griekspoor. He just wasn't able to close out the match. Whereas Monfils, he played decent and was able to at least close one set against Jannik Sinner, and he came up clutch in those 2 tiebreaks against Shapovalov. And I think he will just be the better player in this match against Musetti, and I think he will win in straight sets. Which then sets up 2 quarterfinals on this side of the draw, which is Andrei Rublev against Jakub Mensik, and an all-French matchup with Hugo Humbert against Gael Monfils. I think this is 2 2-set matches. I think Andrei Rublev will face a Jakub Mensik who has had to fight it out with Andy Murray and had to play very well. He will maybe be a bit tired, and I think Andrei Rublev will be able to capitalize on that, and I think he will beat Jakub Mensik in straight sets. And I think that Hugo Humbert will, once again, I think he will have gotten back to his rhythm after a week of recovery, and I think that he will be just as imposing against Monfils as he was in that week in Marseille. So I do think he will win in straight sets to face Andrei Rublev in the semi-final, where I think that while Humbert will still play well, I have a good feeling about Rublev this week. I think Rublev will beat Humbert in 3 sets and go to the final in Doha, where he has been once before. He obviously has that one title from Doha already. But before I tell you whether or not I think Rublev is actually able to win the title here in Doha again, we're jumping to the other side of the draw, where the first matchup is Talon Griekspoor up against the qualifier. Now, I think Griekspoor has played a very, very impressive week of tennis, really. He fought it out with Musetti, had to save match points to win an epic match there. He also went to 3 sets against Hurkacz, where he was down a set, and once again just battled through and won. He ended up going to the semi-finals in Rotterdam, where he faced Sinner, and I just don't think he was able to truly impose his game on Sinner. I think throughout the week he'd been defending so well, and he thought that would be enough to beat Sinner. Where if you just try to defend against Sinner, you're not going to get much. He needed to be way more attacking and try to take time away from Sinner to just have a chance, and he didn't do that. But it was a great week for Griekspoor. Maybe he's going to be a bit tired. I know he had a few blisters in that semi-final against Griekspoor, but he's facing a qualifier in this first round. I think that's a nice way to ease into the tournament. I mean, of course, that can change once we see who the eventual qualifier he'll face is. But as of right now, I think Griekspoor wins in straight sets, where he will then face either Alexei Poprin or Abdullah Shelbai. This is a match that I am personally really looking forward to. I really, really like Shelbai, and I can't wait to see what he'll do this year. I hope this will be played on a court that is streamed. I live in Denmark, so it's not all the matches that I'm able to watch. I don't know how the streaming conditions are in other countries, but I hope that I will be able to watch this match, and I can't wait to see who will win, because I think this is a really fascinating battle. I like Shelbai, but I do think Poprin will just have what it takes to beat Shelbai in 3 sets, as Shelbai isn't as used to the ATP Tour. Of course, he's had a level of success on the Challenger Tour, but I just think Poprin has that bit more experience on the ATP Tour, and I think he'll win in 3 sets. We then have Marton Fucsovics up against Bautista Agut, and I think Fucsovics, he beat Marozsan last week. He's been decent. I think he's solid. He's not ripping up any trees, but I think he's good. And I think Bautista Agut has struggled a bit this year to really find his form. And I think Marton Fucsovics will win this match in 3 sets to then face Bublik in the second round, because Bublik gets a bye in the first round. Next up, we have got Jan-Lennard Struff up against Christopher O'Connell. This is a match that I can see swing both ways, but then again, I do think Struff is the stronger player. I think O'Connell can be a bit inconsistent, and I think he won't really find his rhythm in this match. I do think he'll take 1 set, but I do think Struff will win it in 3. And Struff will then face either a qualifier or Emil Ruusuvuori. Now, Ruusuvuori actually played quite an impressive tournament in Rotterdam. He just went out to Griekspoor in the quarterfinals. I think when Ruusuvuori plays his best, he sort of looks like a cheap version of Sinner. He has that slap on the forehand that Sinner is so well known for, and at times against Griekspoor, he was able to really dominate on the serve. I think he can look a bit uncomfortable when going to the net, but when he does, he's able to win the points. And I think he has that power from the baseline that Sinner has. Sinner is just obviously better at it. And I think Ruusuvuori will win this first match against a qualifier. Fabian Marozsan also plays a qualifier in the first round, and as I mentioned last week, I'm a big Fabian Marozsan fan. And he didn't manage to beat Fucsovics last week, but I do think he is lucky to get this qualifier draw, and I think he will win in straight sets in this first round. And he will then face Karen Khachanov, or I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name, but Marozsan will face Khachanov in the second round because Khachanov gets a bye in the first round. Looking at the round of 16, we have got Talon Griekspoor up against Alexei Poprin. And I think this is another fascinating matchup because Griekspoor has been so good at defending, especially in Rotterdam. And I know he won't have that Dutch crowd to get behind him here, but he's, of course, still a great player. And I do think that Poprin will impose himself, and I think Poprin will take the second set, but I do think Griekspoor will be able to figure out the match tactically, and I do think he will win in 3 sets. Griekspoor will then face either Marton Fucsovics or Alexander Bublik in the quarterfinals, and I think Bublik has just had a week off to rest, and he's been great this year. I think he will beat Marton Fucsovics in straight sets. We then have Jan-Lennard Struff up against Emil Ruusuvuori, and this is a match that, again, I can see it swing both ways. I think Ruusuvuori can play great. I think if Jan-Lennard Struff can hit his serve big, as he usually does, he has that as a great weapon. And this will be a tight match, but I'm just going to edge Struff to win in 3 sets. We then have Fabian Marozsan in the final match in the round of 16 up against Khachanov. And I think realistically, Khachanov wins this in 2 sets. But as mentioned, I really like Marozsan, and I feel like I need to believe in him, and I do think he'll win at least one set, and I think he'll lose in 3. That's my prediction. That then sets up 2 quarterfinals on this side of the draw, which is Griekspoor against Bublik and Struff against Kachanov. And Griekspoor up against Bublik, I think will be tight, but this is a match where I'm gonna pick Bublik to win in 3 sets. I just think he has had such a great start to the year, and I feel like he's playing with a lot of confidence, and he's able to hit the serve big and play well. I think he'll manage to overpower Griekspoor in this match and go to the semifinal, where I think he will face Kachanov, because I think that he's just a better player than Struff is. I think he was impressive at the Australian Open, and even against Sinner, he just lost to a Sinner at the peak of his powers. I think Kachanov is just better than Struff. And he will go to the semifinal against Bublik, where I think that Bublik will actually win. Again, Bublik is just, I think he's 7-2 this year, if I remember correctly, and he's just breezing. He's confident. He's playing well, and I think he will beat Kachanov in 3 sets to go to the final against Andrei Rublev. And in that final, I think Rublev wins in 3 sets. As I said, I have a good feeling about Rublev this week. I think he's going to be confident, and I have a feeling he won't lose his head as much. He got very angry at times in Rotterdam, but whenever he got angry, I noticed it didn't last very long. He was actually able to contain his emotions to a degree. Now, obviously, it's still Andrei Rublev, so you're going to be able to see he's frustrated. But he didn't break rackets, and he didn't go ballistic or anything. I think he'll be able to keep his emotions a bit better in check than he can do at times, and I think he'll beat Bublik to lift the title in Doha, and I think he'll win in 3 sets to do so. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have liked it, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. If you like trying to predict tennis, write a comment down below. Tell me who you think is going to win in Doha. Will Bublik win? Will Rublev win as I say he will? Or will it be someone else? Tell me what you think down below. And thank you so much for watching this video. Have a very nice day.